So this is Adam. Adam is a wedding photographer out of DC. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a good dude, he's a friend. And a couple months ago, he sent out a tweet saying something to the effect of, I wish I could go road trip through Iceland with my friends. Now, for me, in that moment, I was quarantining with Lena here at home, just solo parenting. And, you know, I had a minute on the internet. Yeah, that sounds like super fun, totally responding. And my bluff got called. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And 2 weeks later, we were on a plane to Iceland. With that, the goal was just to go and have fun. We both had been before. Neither of us had huge goals to see like the most famous of the sites or to try to become insta famous overnight with it. But we just wanted to go and have fun and make some memories and, you know, make a couple photos along the way. So for me, obviously, as we start a trip like this, the biggest question is, what cameras am I going to bring? So I try to keep it nice and simple, and I stuck with all of the 6s. So digital wise, I shot it with the R6, and then I also brought my Mamiya 6 MF and my Leica M6 with the Voigtlander Nocton 35mm f1.2. And then as far as film goes, I shot all of the film on Portra 400, thinking that I could keep it nice and simple and have a consistent look, because then both cameras would be using the same film. So when we landed in Iceland a couple hours before sunrise, just because it was February, and as we drove out of Reykjavík, kept going north, really working on a goal of not going straight to all the places that you have heard before. But after a sunrise over the fjords, we ended up in the Snaefellness Peninsula. Yep, that same mountain that you have seen a million times on Instagram. I'd actually never been there before, so it was new and fun for me just to go to a different spot. We even did a little bit of droning, and we successfully did not crash the drone into the mountain. After that, I don't know if we got any more drones after that, just because it was pretty windy the whole rest of the trip. Staying out on that Snaefellness Peninsula area, we kind of went through a few other areas just looking for places that look pretty and interesting photos. One of the little towns we ended up in was called Hellisandr, and that was just that was a really fun place because it created this moment for me of something that I thought would be an interesting set of photos to take, and trying to see what a waterfaring people in the winter, like what that looks like. Just because, you know, Iceland, they fish, they boat, they do those kind of things. And so trying to have that in the back of my mind, that whatever photos I do, like hoping to kind of pull together some images that would be of the boat's life, that kind of stuff mixed together. And now, obviously, it was just a couple day trip. I wasn't gonna have enough time to really dive into like a meaty project or anything like that, but at least it gave me something creative to hold on to and to kind of build the trip around, or at least build my images around, because that helps me have something to work towards instead of just willy-nilly making photos.
Today is just today and not tomorrow. Where you're
then that evening we spent our first night in the town of Guðrúnarlaug, which was really fun to also be in there in those twilight hours, just because in the winter that far north, twilight lasts forever. And so it was fun to go out in a snowstorm and try to make photos, both on digital and on film, in that hazy blue light, and have such like a well-known mountain to be right there, and just finding ways to kind of tie the town and to the place together into a couple images and stuff. It was a fun challenge for me.
Be hard working so you can be deserving of the rest that you are given. You gotta slow down and look around you, son. Give a lot.
The next morning we woke up before sunrise and started driving for what would be our first full day in country. With the goal that we wanted to go to a hot spring called Guðrúnarlaug. Along the way we stopped to get gas, and Adam was promptly proposed to because he's super gregarious, and was talking about how he wanted to move to Iceland but couldn't because he's American, and promptly, oh, well, you should just marry me. Hey Rebecca, if you're out there and your offer still stands, I know that there are a lot of dudes who would take you up on it.
Easy now, you gotta get going. Easy now.
It was super fun once we got up to the Guðrúnarlaug pool, just because it's this like just pot of hot water in the middle of the snow. Like, it's just so idyllic, and to have like the old changing hut there, and to have this view out over all of this expanse, kind of in that sunrise light. It was really pretty and a fun little spot to be.
Get going. Easy now, you gotta get going. Easy now.
Then we hopped in the car and kept driving, and became good friends with our friend the wind.
Hey Adam, is it cold? How's the wind going?
It's great. It's just very windy.
And this was basically the rest of the trip. This is why there's no more drone footage after this, because it basically was windy the whole rest of the trip, at least during the daytime. Throughout our drives and stuff, I'd seen a few lighthouses that were just like popping off in the distance. I was like, oh, those look kind of cool, and especially with my idea of like, how do we compare this like seafaring lifestyle with, you know, take photos of that. I kind of became a little obsessed over those. And so as we've been driving through, I'd kept that in the back of my mind. And we stopped and we kept seeing like them again, just like way off in the distance down below. And a couple of these places that were just so pretty, so idyllic on these fjords with these epic views looking down the water. But right as we're getting into sunset, we came around the north part of this point, and there it was, just this perfect orange lighthouse at the bottom of the hill. So hung a hard left, drove down there, and it felt like it was like right on the outskirts of some dude's farm, but made a couple photos of it. It's just like so perfect, exactly what I hoped for. Got me excited to then find some more lighthouses throughout the rest of this trip. So I hopped in the car and we're going into the place that we were going to be spending the night. And it was fun because we kind of drove through this tunnel and you pop out onto that fjord, and it's just so magical and so big and wild and epic. And it had that right in that soft twilight light was really, really pretty. That town that we were spending the night in was called Siglufjörður, and we from our hotel, like spent some time in the hot tubs and stuff. Like that was probably the clearest night, and I was definitely laying in the hot tub, like I could see stars. Just like, please come on, Northern Lights, come on, Northern Lights, come on, Northern Lights. But so after the hot tub, packed up my cameras and went on a bit of a photo walk. I started off using the M6, trying to go around and take photos with 35. I forgot to bring a cable release for my cameras on these, which is a bit annoying because at least with the M6, like there's no way to take the photo except then it's just like pushing the button. And so I'm out on these things and like, these are going to be photos that need to be 3 to 5 seconds long in order to take these photos of these boats at harbor. But I do want to make sure that I really expose them really long, because I do want the mountains in the background to pop up. Like it wouldn't be a crazy long exposure to just get the photos of the boats themselves. But one thing that film does so well, and has been talked about a million times, is that it retains highlight information so well. And so in a scene like this, where I'm trying to capture everything, it's pretty easy then to have that longer exposure, because it's not going to necessarily blow those highlights completely out, but you're going to have more time to fill in those gaps. Now, obviously, 400 speed film is not the same thing as being able to shoot with 3200 ISO or 6400 ISO or something that my R6 can do so easily. But by having that longer exposure, it's able to build in that time. And so being able to walk around and take photos. And I had it on the tripod and was just like, hold the button, just like as tenderly as I possibly could, trying to get those longer exposures with my gloves on, just being like, come on, don't shake, don't shake, don't shake, don't shake. Then after I finished that roll, Adam met up with me and we went back out for a few more photos. Now, using the Mamiya 6, it was definitely a lot easier because this camera does have a 10-second timer on it. So I could, the problem being I could only have up to a 4-second exposure then, which that's a bummer. Like it would be nice to expose, especially because this lens only has a 3.5 aperture. But 4 seconds, it seemed like it was metering okay. And in this one, I tried to pick closer subjects and stuff and not worry as much about the background. So I didn't feel the need to burn in those shadows quite as much. And most of these photos I think turned out really nice. This one portrait of Adam, I'm super bummed that I missed the focus on, which just because using a rangefinder at night in the cold can be a little bit tricky. But the one from the Leica turned out really cool.
I was going through changes, where to begin when a mountain moving revelation came marching in.
My favorite photo from the night section was these ones. Just because I feel like with those mountains in the background, they just look like troll claws or troll fingers sticking down over the top, which, especially with the way that trolls are part of Icelandic mythology, it just is cool to see those pieces kind of combined into these images. So the next morning, again, we hopped in the car before sunrise to get going, which I guess to say before sunrise was not terribly difficult because sunrise was at like 9. So it was pretty easy to be in the car and be out. And we drove down to Akureyri, which is the second largest town in Iceland, and then went on a snowmobile tour because why the heck not? And this is a dude that Adam had met on a previous trip. And like he kind of had called him like he's a bit rednecky. He's kind of like in there. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And it was more so than I expected, but also way more fun. I mean, definitely like the snowmobiles were super fun. The day was like a lot of the time we were there, it was super grayed out, and so it didn't give us the opportunity to quite go as like deep into the mountains as I think we would have hoped for. It still was just a blast to just get out there and rip and find, like, once we found a couple spots that were super safe, to just kind of go for it. But the guide, his name is Siggy, was a character. The dude was a professional skydiver for years. He's kind of crazy, but in the like, he has so many stories kind of a way. I think we sat there for 2 hours after we finished our tour, just listening to him talk. And I could have stayed there for days. I would watch a documentary solely about his life. I would go back and film a documentary about his life. Like, the guy was just full of interesting things to say. So as we're leaving, I did ask for a couple portraits of his and stuff. That I do really like these. I think they turned out really nicely. And they were fun to frame up and try to make photos of this interesting person in his home, in his place of work, and to be able to kind of draw these portraits into like a little bit more environmental portraiture and find something interesting to say about the way that he's connected into this place. So after we finished our time with Siggy, that was early afternoon or something, so we still had a few more hours of daylight, so we kept going, and we're driving around the fjord, and there was another lighthouse, and I think Adam probably like his eyes probably rolled to the back of his head as I obsessed about this. I was like, no, we need to go take photos of these. And we got down there, and just like the way that the orange was popping off of the teal, which, I mean, he's a Sony shooter. He should be stoked about an orange and teal combination, right? But then to be able to make those kind of photos, and like I quickly like burned through a roll, and then I didn't have a camera on me, so I needed to like borrow his camera to take photos and stuff. And I think annoyingly, I think the best photo that I made in Iceland is this one that I took on Adam's camera, digital. Yeah. But it still was really fun just to have this little place to show this little vignette of the lighthouse, and then also these boats sitting along the harbor that are in the shore covered in snow, but with that like teal, almost steely blue water behind. They're just some of my favorite photos that I took there.
Come, my love, my morning light. Everything's gonna be alright. Come, my love, my morning light. Everything's gonna be alright.
After that, we hopped in the car and kept driving, and ended up at Detifoss, which is one of the definitely more famous Icelandic waterfalls. You've definitely seen photos of it before. But it was also the windiest place we went to on the entire trip. Like, I was so glad that I had micro spikes that I could put onto my shoes, just because I felt like I was going to get blown off the mountain as we were walking through. And there were other people who were like trying to get out of the car and kind of giving us a look of like, is it worth it? Like, you're here, you have to go see it. It was super epic and fun to get up there. And I don't know, it's interesting how like being in snow just allows you to get up and get so close to places. And when it's so windy, A, there's just nobody else, so we kind of had the place to ourselves. But also B, like any footprints that had been there so quickly disappear, and it feels like a just empty space, an empty landscape to make photos in. So the next morning we woke up early because we were going to begin the Diamond Circle. It's kind of like a series of things around this northern part of Iceland that we wanted to see. And so the first one of those being Hverfjall volcano, which just seemed like this cool lump sticking out of this barren nothing plain. So we drove out there, got to the spot, and promptly got the car stuck in the snow. Funny story, this was actually the second time that we got the car stuck in the snow. The first time was first day, and we got pulled out by a dude in this monster truck. This time we got pulled into the snow, and oh shoot, this is kind of the middle of nowhere. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Luckily, about 2 minutes later, an Italian dude and his girlfriend showed up, and all like we're able to like push it back out of the snow and park, and we're like, okay, we know we can get out. We'll be good. And then from there we went, and Adam and I ended up hiking up to the top of the volcano, which was really fun to get up, to get a little bit more perspective, looking back over this like Medieval area. There's a lake, there's kind of like just a lot of rocky lowlands and stuff. It also was probably the coolest looking visitor center I've ever seen in my life. And then also to be just up higher and look into the crater was really, really pretty and just like fun to get out and do a hike. And like in a road trip where we've done so much sitting and just like park, photo, go, park, photo, go, like to actually have like some hiking and walking to go and explore was a fun change. So then after that, we were trying to go to a few other like lakes and things kind of in this diamond circle, and kind of got a little bit lost, kept taking the wrong direction. And I think after having had the car stuck twice, we were extremely careful about what roads we were going to take. It was just like, there is no way we're getting stuck. And so one of the last areas in this that we're going to see is the Detifoss waterfall, which is like the second most powerful waterfall in Iceland, and it's just this raging one coming down the valley. It's really cool, really powerful. And then from there, being able to walk up and kind of see this upper falls, that's also really pretty. And that one I really love, just because it's this long canyon. You kind of hike along till you get there, and you can always see it off in the back. And so it's kind of a fun thing, because you just kind of get closer and closer and you keep building up to it. And it's like that bright teal, and just the way that the snow was just pulling together and really creating kind of like an obvious photo, but also just like such a powerful mix of like this moving water with the still snow was an interesting combination to make. But then coming out of that, we were supposed to basically leave that parking lot, and the idea was that we'd turn right and we'd go all the way up, and then we'd take a road up around the northern part and come back to Husavík. And we got to that point, and all of the tire tracks went to the left, and not a single one went to the right. And that was the moment that we both were decided to be smart. And from there, we decided to go to the town of Husavík, which, if you're a Will Ferrell fan, ya ding dong. Ding dong. And went out to go take some photos there. Along the way, we did stop at a herd of Icelandic ponies, just because how can you not? They're adorable. And as soon as you park, they all come running over, because I'm sure they're used to being fed by all the tourists. After the horses, we went into the town of Husavík, which filled out my trifecta of awesome photos of lighthouses, and then took a little bit of time in the city itself, just because it was like this nice little port town. And there's a bunch of like old like sailboats and stuff, and it's just like this idyllic little spot. So after the photos of in the town, we decided we would spend the sunset and last little bit there at the GOC pool, which again, if you've gone to Iceland, you've probably heard of the Blue Lagoon. We were in a lot of other hot tubs and stuff, but this is the most awesome thing I've ever been to. So it's like heated pools of salt water on a cliff, on a fjord, almost in the Arctic. And they had beer, and it was amazing. It was a perfect way to finish the trip, to have our last, to begin our last night and just like hang out and relax and enjoy the view. And it was really fun. Then as soon as we kind of like decided to go, hop in the car, drove for a few hours, most of the way back to Reykjavík, so that the first thing the next morning we could finish the trip into town, because we flew out in the afternoon. And of course, as soon as we got to Reykjavík, it actually got sunny and was warmish and was not windy. And so I laugh because I feel like a lot of the photos in Reykjavík are like the best film photos that I took on this trip, just because there was actually sun. And these photos of town are those photos of the church, both on the outside or from the inside with the light leaking through the windows and stuff, are just some of my favorites as far as like quality film photos go, just because they actually were exposed and look like they're supposed to, which was a bit of a challenge and stuff, but also like it was a fun thing to finally have that turn out. And then after meal, we had to head back to the airport and fly on home. So yeah, it was a quick trip. It was really fun. Definitely was not what I expected when the new year started. It was not. So what's my thought of the photos and stuff? I look back on these, and in general, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't think they quite turned out great. And I don't really know why. I don't know why these photos, especially these film photos, didn't turn out great. I don't know if it's that I didn't do a good job developing them. I've scanned them twice, and in general, I'm just kind of disappointed in those photos. So I wonder if I would have paid to have them done professionally, if they would look better. I'm also very curious, especially with using the Mamiya 6 here for the medium format photos, because it is an electronic camera. I was having a little bit of problems with it, and that like the shutter would stick. So as soon as like it would stick having taken a photo because it was so cold, and then as soon as I would like crank the winder, it would then immediately take the next photo, just because that shutter was stuck down. That also makes me wonder then if there was anything off with the shutter speed, with those kind of things, just because of that temperature change. Now I tried to keep the cameras warm, keep them on me, and just like take them out, take a photo, put it back. But yeah, I wasn't super happy with them. I also was kind of like, I just quickly meter with my phone, but I wonder if I would have brought a meter and tried to find a better balance. Maybe I could have done that a little better, especially because of snow is generally challenging to photograph, because if you're most of the time you look out a snowy scene, what you see is the snow and you want that to be white, but your camera kind of like makes that be middle gray, and how do you find the balance and those kind of things. So I think I could have been more intentional with those exposures. And lastly, just like because it was so muted, not to say it's not, like you definitely can take good photos on film in muted light, like that's always been the adage for years. But I feel like I like the look of at least Portra 400. I like that look with more light in it, and so that's why I like those photos at the end on the sunny day. I think look so much better just because that light balance looks so good. So yeah, I think I finished with a really fun trip, okay photos, but I don't really think that's the point, because I had a lot of fun, and that's the bigger thing. So when your friends throw out random ideas on the internet, give them a thought before you say no, because you never know where you'll end up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you around.